Thank you everyone so much for joining from all around the world, and a special hello to our friends in LA and Mocha. My name is Carly Weiner and I am the Director of Communications for Schmidt Ocean Institute. Today, it is an honor to be introducing our connection with Research Vessel Falkor 2, as they are transiting back from the East Pacific Rise after a very, very productive expedition, along with renowned artist Max Hooper Schneider, our current artist at sea. Falkor 2 is Schmidt Ocean Institute's primary tool for meeting our organization's mission of advancing the frontiers of ocean science through technological information, operational support, and open sharing of information. We are thrilled to be collaborating with MoCA today as we find new audiences to connect to the science and the sea and make the ocean accessible to all. The science team currently on board is led by Dr. Monica Bright, and they have made some incredible discoveries regarding ecosystems that lay beneath hydrothermal vents and have added to some of the knowledge around these ecosystems, which we'll hear a little bit more about today as we explore not only the science, but how this work has gotten translated through our Artist-at-Sea program. This Artist-at-Sea program began in 2015 and brings artists of all disciplines on board our research vessel to work alongside of the scientists with the aim of sharing ocean discoveries through different perspectives and to make the science more accessible to a greater audience. And with that, I would like to hand it over to MoCA, our senior curator, Bennett Simpson, to share a bit more about Max Hooper Schneider's research and work. Turn it over to you, Bennett.
Thank you, Carly. Hi, everybody. I can't see you, but it's nice to join you here. And I like that phrase, artist at sea. I think artists are always at sea. The great conceptual artist Lawrence Weiner had an amazing kind of aphorism that I once had printed on a T-shirt, and I think it said, "We are not ducks on a pond, we are ships at sea," which is a beautiful possibility. Anyway, hey Max, this is a very special thing to get to visit you on the boat and to listen to you talk about your work there. I'm going to just give a quick introduction. For folks who may not be familiar with what you do. Max Hooper Schneider studied landscape architecture and biology, and I think it's trite in a way to go back to our degrees and so forth, but it's so easy to see those two fields in your work. I think that Max belongs to a tradition of artists who kind of work in this kind of very rich intersection between philosophy and science, kind of actual science, hard science, and the speculative. The things that he makes, you can call sculptures. You can call them installations, but they are really, I think they're really kind of like essays made with stuff, or kind of series of Socratic dialogues made with stuff. And a lot of that stuff has to do with the eternal tension between the man-made and the non-man-made, or between what people used to call the natural world and the human world. These are binaries that don't really work anymore. They worked for a very long time, for millennia, but they don't really work anymore. And I think, Max, your work has been really illuminating for me in thinking about how they don't work anymore in recent years. One of the things I think that Max is going to talk about today is the kind of really the interpenetration of the oceans and the man-made world, and I look forward to hearing about that. And I just want to welcome everybody and say thank you to Max Hooper Schneider. Take it away, Max.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Well, actually, Bennett, that was incredibly touching. I almost feel like tearing up. Yeah, that was just really succinct and beautiful, and I appreciate that preamble. And Carly as well, thank you so much for your involvement and SOI's involvement, obviously, in this extraordinary opportunity. And Mocha has had a profound engagement. So yeah, before I go off on a tangent, I really wanted to thank all of you. This has really been a catalytic moment in my life, elucidating in many ways. And the other thing I want to say before we actually go on this safari is big shout out to Maria Safarian, who was really the nucleus of all of this. She introduced me to Carly, and then Carly and I have kind of been doing a logistical dance for the past several years, trying to figure out the right mission. And now that we're at the end of this mission, I can say this with certitude, this was really the right one. So we don't have much time, but I'm going to try and give you my day-to-day safari, show you some of the experiments that I was pushing in situ, and hopefully some of the anticipated bodies of work, and then also just like the intellectually nutritious people around me, and also I can't see anyone, and I don't know where I should look or whatever, and just I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for all attending. This right now, this is the deck, and it's about 100 degrees humidity. You could probably, I think maybe my afro is a barometer of that. But this is where I would come daily and kind of walk around, and also bake lots of materials that we dredged up from the deep sea region in the sun. And okay, let's just do this really quickly. This is closed. The other thing I should tell everyone is that it's a bittersweet moment, more sweet, but we're towards the end of the exhibition, or expedition, soon to be exhibition. So a lot of things are packed up, and a lot of people are packing up, but you'll meet a lot of people. This was where the welding area where I would make structures every few days for deployments. Very, very crude acts of artifice. You will see these things in the lab, but I want to show you, it's kind of like this entire ship is the metabolism and the atelier, and I really came here with essentially nothing, which was my own kind of prompt. And I was able to excel with the scarcity of materials, and not being in LA, I was able to excel in many ways, discursively and formally. And this is a perfect moment. This is what they call the hangar, and this is something. This is the ROV. This is the ROV with the cute name Sebastian. And every morning around 5:30, the scientists and myself, we would load this guy up. And this is the guy. This is the thing, the submarine ROV that would descend down to submarine depths like exceeding 2,500 meters. So obviously can withstand major atmospheric water pressure. I don't know if you're getting a slideshow or not, but yeah, it's funny. It's definitely became a kind of creature that has these titanium dexterous arms that was part of the entire gestalt of this place. And for the right price, Sebastian does weddings too. Just kidding. This is actually this is great. This is a great moment. So this is these are some of the scientists. This is Monica Bright, actually, who you'll meet later. We're gonna talk to her in the lab. Right now, they're loading up some of these samples that were taken from below the Earth's crust, from below the hydrothermal vents, and these were I mean, these are truly, truly, truly magical. I mean, that's, you can't even use that word, but very special objects. And can you show this one? This is one of the most profound geological things I've ever seen. And if you start to think of the atmosphere and the deep sea region as a giant lasagna, I mean, that's a crude metaphor, but it is a giant lasagna. And then the lasagna pan, there's caves underneath that pan, like, so underneath the Earth's crust, and I hope I'm not butchering this, but underneath the Earth's crust, there's caves that form under these hydrothermal vents, and they form these little stalactites, and they're biodiverse, they're teeming with life. So that's what those little projections are that you see. And this was a breakthrough moment for the entire expedition, for Monica, who has been theorizing about life in the cracks and beneath the hydrothermal vents. And this is also, you know, flash formed obsidian from underwater eruptions. So that's leaving the hangar. And again, you can start to see my own personal eco rhythm and peripatetic nature. Like, you're just darting around, and the whole thing was the most opulent atelier I've ever had. It's going to be really hard. This is the cold lab, and we don't need to go in here too much, but again, it's packed up, but I'd spent a lot of time in here observing dissections, doing dissections of my own, and typically, I mean, before it's packed up, this this was the cold room, and it was blessed with the aroma of tube worm blood, which factored into a lot of the things I was creating on board. Let's go out here. So now, and I hope everyone can bear with me. I mean, we will get to the things that I'm pursuing. But this was where the ROV Sebastian. Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's okay. It adds to the theater of this whole thing. I just cut myself on that basalt, but I mean, that's a luxury. I mean, I hope it happens again. This is the control room. So it's kind of like you can see, it's like a panopticon of data, everything that Sebastian, the ROV, is seeing, including the sculptures that I was deploying. And probably at this point of the tour, you can see why, like, I never want to come home. I mean, you wake up and have an espresso and then come down here. It's been unreal. So now let's get to the lab slash atelier slash abattoir on the ship, which it's coming. And then I kind of prepared some visual aids for you guys, but again, all these beautiful people. And you can see everyone's packing up. But this was my little cul-de-sac here. And you can see it's a little bit of a different language than the other things happening here, but I can assure you there really was a symphony of the same kind of play surrounding experimentation. And I think that actually was a mutually energizing force between myself and the scientists. But these were a series of worm blood watercolors, if you want to call them that. But this is me really beginning to use what was being discarded or was available on board. So a form of upcycling, but also, my kind of way of preservation of something that's called trophosome, which it's a symbiotic organ in the tube worm, and you don't need to know a ton about that, but that's what you can see here. So they're half slide, half watercolor, and along the lines of what Ben was saying, I think the ultimate thing I strive to do is break down binaries between natural and artificial, living and living dead, growth, decay, and present everything as matter in flux, as fleeting, as in transition. And These are really what I ultimately came with. This was a deployment deep sea that we've pulled up, and now you can see that it's been picked at and kind of savaged and co-authored and slicked with residues from the deep sea. This was taken down by Sebastian, and you'll see videos of this. So there is a calculus to all of what's happening right now for this presentation. These are tube worm. These are the tube worm casings, and these are made out of chitin, which is essentially a protein like your hair. And this was another deployment made by Sebastian, which again was subsumed by things in the hydrothermal vent fields. And you will see videos of that. My little microscopes, this is essentially, I just came with microscopes. This is just for demonstrative purposes. This is Cookie Crisp and a tube worm casing. But you can see how the slide kind of then became a thing I could incorporate into filmic experiments and montages, which will ultimately come out of this. There will be kind of a deep sea montage. And all right, I think what we will do is, I think I'll show you some of the bodies of work that I'll be pursuing, and then I guess I want to quickly introduce everyone to the principal investigator, Monica Bright, who really is a legend in my opinion. I mean, a true legend. So everyone can meet her, and then we'll just do Q&A, and he's queuing this up right now. And if I don't, the thing about this is, are people allowed to, can I hear people? No? Well, if there's any questions or any
Hi Max,
any
it's
alarms
Carly.
go off.
I'm hosting, so any questions that get typed in, I will relay over to you.
Okay, great. So just tell me, you can just tell me how I'm doing on time and everything.
Sounds good. All
right. So guys, again, it's an interesting thing here. Okay. I'm gonna breeze through these slides with my bloody finger. But so the first thing I'd like to review is what I call the deployment project. And this is an ongoing project that I started probably like a decade ago. And this is, again, along the lines of what Bennett was saying. What happens when a hardscape or object of human artifice gets overridden or corrupted or corroded and becomes a kind of a presumably biotic thing, and what really those definitions are, or how we look at those things, and this is it's a kind of I would get a shift away from Cartesian thinking, being lionizing the human as chief architect of the world out there. I mean, we know all of these narratives that are now being problematized and loosened by lots of artists, myself included. But so the deployment project, those things that you saw, this again, I didn't bring anything precious from my studio. I just brought bric-a-brac and marginalia and made these quick and dirty assemblages, really as experiments, as research, as essentially like data nets for the deep sea. So I will show you what's more interesting. This is them when they're dredged up. Again, just here we go, chicken bones. And I want everyone now to see the video, because that will really that summarizes this project. But here you can see Sebastian. I mean, it's so funny to just say Sebastian all the time, but his dexterous titanium arms deploying these things. And I guess I really, there's so many things I can say about this, and I think the one thing I'd like to emphasize here is that they're supposed to ask, these deployments are really supposed to ask, radically challenging questions, and sometimes sometimes very difficult, hard to digest questions about what pollution is. I mean, we have, pollution is something that's inevitable, right? And now we're kind of as a species living within the now lethal effects of centuries of wanton planetary destruction. We all know this. So I choose to ask the question of it's not, or choose to suggest it's not going anywhere, and it's better to address it. And then again, start to look at the thresholds of when something can kind of really be restored as a resource, and has agency and potential again. So it's kind of like these things in many ways function as triggering events. I mean, they obviously they look like junk. It looks like something in stark contrast to one of the most sovereign, inaccessible realms on Earth. But it's really supposed to foster that kind of thinking about what the state of our inheritance of pollution is and means, and how pollution can be thought of. I guess it's almost like you could say the ontology of toxicity or something, because eventually things do get reclaimed, and this thing will get integumented with bacteria and biofilms and become an agential thing again. And then how are we supposed to look at it? I think a perfect example is those plastic islands floating in the Pacific. Now they have all sorts of they're teeming with all sorts of novel extremophilic life. Anyway, it's a thought, you know what I mean? These things aren't supposed to be finished objects. They're not supposed to be pretty. They're prompts, and if anything, I want them to exist as a set of conditions with no plot. I've said that before. So those are some of my deployments. Again, you saw my little lab set up there with those microscopes, and I think I'm going to play you another video of again, some of these hybridizations of the natural and artificial, and then kind of the blurring of those boundaries. These are copepods that were found. Obviously, they came up as samples from the hydrothermal vent region, and these are on different surfaces that I crafted, and things that actually could be perceived as deleterious, and they are actually thriving. And this is me also. This is my version of painting, to be honest. That was an orange that I put a petri dish over an orange, a sliced orange. So, I kind of, I went full native on this. I went full native in the lab, but I was surrounded with a lot of encouragement. Again, the copepods. These, the long game for these kind of these filmic experiments, they will factor into these kind of presentations that operate under this rubric that I've kind of pushed and focused on. Whatever, this is me in the lab. But anyway, they will be part of these kind of multimedia polysensorial presentations under this rubric of something called the dioramic mode, meaning they're really supposed to be faithful communications of a site or a place, but in an atypical way. So they're not supposed to be didactic in any way, but they are supposed to capture things that are hard to capture and ephemera. So, and with the ultimate goal of the idea of immanence, meaning that all material, all matter is interlaced and mutually transformative. I mean, this is I've actually, this is just what I'm going to be saying the entire time, but nothing is autonomous and everything is informing and imprinting one another. And so I've been obviously filming things in situ. I'll be taking a lot of specimens home, and these dioramic modes will hopefully be a barometer and an index of everything that we encountered, but not in an overly prescriptive way. And it doesn't have to operate within, classical, conventional classificatory categories. How many C's is that? But everyone gets it. So what else we got here? That's me. I don't want to see that. I really don't want to see that. Okay. Again, you could call these the stages in italics. But really I was, in the most nutritious way. I was kind of like the garbage disposal in the lab, and everybody would feed me the dregs of their experiments or give me things they didn't use, and I could kind of, we'd have science meetings daily, and I could kind of suggest my hopes and dreams for each dive. Okay. Now we're getting into a little bit more of a fanciful body of work here, and I'm starting to realize how much I'm tackling. But it's an interesting thing too, because I almost feel vulnerable because I've been so inspired and so enraptured by this environment. So to kind of have to start articulating it immediately and propose bodies of work, it's a challenge. So everyone's got to be like, roll with me here and know that this is protean, but it's a compass of my thinking. And I'm really, this is just, another letter in my alphabet. You've seen this. I mean, this is the deep sea lollipop series, right? And I mix histories in my work. I've collapsed binaries. Like Bennett was saying, so these deep sea lollipops will actually be oversized, hardened sucrose casts with, I don't want to say horrifying, but let's say atypical specimens from the field. And at once it's supposed to be, it's supposed to operate as a low to high elevation and kind of simultaneously be quotidian object and opulent seeing device. So I've collected a lot of things from the field that will be cast into these giant lollipops. And again, I'm breezing through these slides. It does, there's a specific location within art history and also within 16th century Wunderkammers and 19th century theaters of horror, but we can give everyone a PDF at the end of this. But yeah, there will be diaphanized specimens. We'll go through this because I really want everyone to meet Monica Bright. Let's see here. So examples of specimens that I'm taking home. Yeah. These,
Thanks,
this
Max.
is a perfect
it's fascinating
example.
to see all of this. It's really, really, really neat to look at all of your work and how you've been inspired. Do we want to chat with Monica now, and then so we can leave some time for Q&A?
Yeah, let's do it. I think, everybody, I got my points across. It's really like, I'm going to just quickly blast through this. More dioramic mode studies, but it was just a magnificent environment. So yeah, you saw the worm blood watercolors. These are scans of them, and I'm going to go get Monica Bright. This is my watercolor. zone, but I'm gonna get Monica Bright really quickly, and you guys can talk to her.
That sounds great. And while we're waiting for Max
Monica.
to join us with Monica, I just want to put a reminder to the chat. You can look at more video work of Max in the Artist-at-Sea birth on Falkor through YouTube. We also have lots of videos that highlight the science that's taking place that you can see through schmidtocean.org, our website, or our YouTube channel as well. And if anyone has any questions they would like Max to answer, feel free to that into the Q&A, or if that's not working, it can go into the chat as well.
We're good on. Oh yeah. I think we're good, right? Yep. Yeah, we're live.
You're live. We can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I wanted to briefly introduce. This is all because of Monica Bright, who is now a dear friend and a true effing legend in my opinion, and I just wanted to. I think she's equally. I consider her an artist as well, and has really innovated lots of thinking around chemosynthesis and hydrothermal vent communities and life in liminal regions of the ocean, and those basalt rocks were a perfect example of that. And here she is. And I guess my big question is, there were some huge discoveries, huge victories on this thing.
Yeah, there was actually really, really big discovery because my original idea was that I wanted to test if basically the larvae of giant tube worms, those really gigantic worms that live at the deep sea hydrothermal vents, enter basically the vents in the next generation as larvae, and that they come from basically the Earth's crust, so below the surface of the vents. And the reasoning was very simple, because vent fluid rises up, is very warm, and the larvae cannot swim against the vent flow. This is the first thing. And the second thing, it could be coming from the side, but I made numerous observations from very many past cruises where I saw that basically those tube worms grow out of the cracks of the basalt. And also this I did not understand first, because I was thinking, okay, the lower you go into the Earth's crust, the warmer it is, the less oxygen you have, the more toxic chemicals you have, and they would not do it on free will. So I had that idea that they come from below, and this what we set out to test. And we made quite complicated experiments, which in the end actually did not work so well, but it forced us in a way to dig into the Earth's crust with the help of the excellent ROV pilots. That we this is a very strong basalt rock in big plates, and the only way we could look below is actually to lift the whole plate of half a square meter or so. And the pilots managed this, and when we opened this, we saw only tubes of dead tube worms, which is also a legacy. That means that they live there because they were dying there. And it means also that the larvae come from below. But while the cruise went on, we were digging basically into the basalt 6 times. And we even found then basically large specimens of the giant tube worms. So basically alive giant tube worms that were living below what you see on the surface below in the Earth's crust, very shallow cavities, caves, even with really beautiful lava drops. That is witness basically how the lava is cooling down after the volcanic eruption. They make beautiful drops that hang down from the ceiling. And the ceiling was also
I showed them that magic
Yeah.
rock.
The ceiling was also then colonized by small tube worms. So this means basically that we discovered hydrothermal vents below the surface. So vents on the surface and vents below surface, and this is actually a really new ecosystem nobody knew about, and changes our view on deep sea hydrothermal vents for sure.
That was that was a beautiful synopsis. I mean, but it's like this really is like the bleeding edge.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's
because,
really the bleeding edge.
It's kind of crazy because you see this beautiful vents above, and then you see a lot of bare basalt that is just a black rock, and maybe a few animals sitting on top of it. And if you dig into this bare environment or almost bare environment, suddenly below is another vent.
Yeah.
So
nobody
knew this.
It's that weird. I mean, it was stupid lasagna metaphor, but there's underneath the lasagna pan, there's more lasagnas.
Yeah. And actually, we were thinking maybe there's even more below, but
that's
no.
It's just the more you know, the more like the less quantifiable everything is, and the other thing, and obviously everyone right now has got a million things to do, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I mean, it's just the thing that I think makes you the most artistic, or vice versa, is you're comfortable in a realm of uncertainty, and I think that and you seem to thrive in that, and I personally, that's my happy place as well. And I think that was part of our synergy, and I just want to say that, you know, Monica's incredibly generous with her energy and encouraged me to do these deployments, and kind of knows this region, so we were able to kind of strategically put these things in areas where we knew they would get some guests.
Yeah, I was very happy that we found time during the dives that we could deploy several of Max's art, and then observe it also what he does there. I find it just very beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think
you're welcome.
I think we're good. I think we're kind of good. But maybe the audience has questions for Monica, or.
Thanks, Max and Monica. I really appreciate both of you being on tonight. I'd be curious to hear from both Monica and Max, from both of you. What's it like kind of synergizing your work together, bringing the science and art together? It seems like it's been a very positive experience, but has this influenced your work going forward?
Yes, but it's difficult to put in words, because I think I was driving on his energy and he was driving on my energy. That was one thing. Yeah. And when you look at art,
also crucial
for me, it's like to look in a different world, because I'm a scientist. You know, I'm driven by questions and hypotheses, and testing something and then proving or disproving something. But the question you ask, they can come from, you know, you have to be innovative also, you know, as a scientist, to find something new. And so we found basically a very good synergy to you know, take the energy from the other to find better things in both disciplines. So that's how I felt it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I absolutely concur and would say the same thing. It starts with a kind of an unspoken energy exchange, and then there's a syllogism, and then one thing leads to, it's just a mountain of questions, a mass.
I mean,
we get more questions. Thank you.
For example, he made videos where he put some dead animals in a container, and on top of it we put a petri dish, and he put on top of this live little animals.
Copepods, yeah.
And the video he made is like, it looks like you are you are like in space.
Yeah.
And I know these animals, I know both of them very well, but the way he could show those and make something out of it is just very fascinating for me. And me as a scientist, I always have the obligation, I have to show something according to whatever the species looks like, or it's alive, or it's dead, or so. No, very, very, very strict in a way, And he just took the same things and went basically with his energy and with his imagination and made something out of this that I never saw before.
It got to be a little bit more recalcitrant or something like that. But everything, it's like the whole thing. It's like an escalation. It kind of feels like that, and everything you presented to me, I would just have thousands of questions, also, which is also good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing felt. It was like nothing was ever complete, which is a good feeling for me.
Sounds like a great symbiotic relationship. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it won't be the last you see of us. I hope.
Well, we have some questions coming in from the audience. Monica, maybe you could take this one first, and then we'll turn it over to Max. What was the single most exciting moment for each of you? I don't know if you can recall and share a little bit.
Yeah, well, for me, the most exciting moment was when we were in the ROV van and in the mission control room, and the rock was flipped, and actually I saw immediately that actually this is something very new, and also, of course, I did not expect it, that basically animals can live there. And I immediately actually saw also that my hypothesis, for which Schmidt Ocean Institute gave me a lot of money because they gave me the ship as a chief scientist, I could prove it, So made me very happy.
Yeah, it was incredible. That was incredible. Truly incredible. We have that beautiful rock. Oh, what was for me too?
Let's move on to the next question, Max, because we've got some questions coming in here. Did you wake up every morning not knowing what you would create that day? So, how sporadic was your creations, and was it dependent on the science discoveries?
It's a great question. I tried to restrain myself before I came here, and I mean, I was pretty successful in not preparing, and there would be a daily program, and things change. Yeah, it's like really doing like a sincere form of field work. I mean, whatever transpires with the ROV, whatever surfaces and is brought to the ship, it would reroute a lot of the making, and the amassing of materials. But there was like a loose calculus to the days. I mean, things were pretty regimented, so when the ROV would be on shore. But yeah, modes. I have methodologies, and then there's tons of improvisation within the methodology, which is happens in LA too.
That's fantastic. We had another question, whether the crew was involved in your work, Max. Besides the ROV pilots who you mentioned, were they involved? Were the other scientists involved in discussions that inspired you to create the art?
I mean, I think also Monica was saying as well. I mean, like, these people deserve the highest, the highest form of extol, just the technical skill sets and the problem solving. And there's a lot of problem solving because you're in one of the most forbidden parts of the known planet. So there's rapid fire prototyping and innovation, and it's absolutely contingent upon a team and the technicians and crew, for sure. I'm trying to think of a good example, but no, I mean, there's a welding studio, but there were things that were even more quixotic than that. I'm blanking, but lots of just like off the cuff innovations of devices and things, and having to seal things, having to try certain silicones. I mean, that's a real sculpture practice. I don't know about science, but I think it's also kind of built into a science practice as well.
Another question for you, Max, that's come in. How much did you know about hydrothermal vents before the expedition? And you've already talked about kind of some of the future work you want to do, but how much more will you incorporate your experiences into your work?
they've actually been a thing of lore since boyhood, and knowing Monica and starting to kind of get these daily edifications from her. I mean, I'm really, really smitten with this, beyond smitten with this environment. I mean, I'm thinking about going back to school now, but I just think chemosynthesis, which is kind of the driving eco force of this entire the entire realm, is incredibly interesting, especially you know, when conversations, and I know, and Mocha has been kind of amazing as obviously SOI, but Mocha has been really amazing as stepping up as like an ecological steward, and conversations of climate change. Chemosynthesis I think is particularly interesting because as the sun's rays become more deadly, non-sun dependent, you know, energy chains kind of become more relevant, and like I said, that's the kind of driving force of this area. And I love, I like abysses. I like creatures with degenerate eyes. I like worms. I like slime. I like, you know, things that lack pigment. And this is probably my favorite biome at this point. So
I'm so
yes,
glad.
yes to that question.
I'm so glad
I mean,
after
I
all
think
this time.
it was the advent of Monica's work that really tipped the scales for me.
Well, and it's great that after all this time we found you in your favorite biome. We have a question from Monica that's come in.
Sure.
Monica, what do these discoveries mean for yourself and for the other scientists on board? So what's next with the information that you've uncovered from this expedition?
So for me, it means that I had this idea to test basically this hypothesis about the larvae for more than 10 years, or actually even longer, because I looked it up in my old notes. I'm at the end of my career, so for me it's just very cool to end my career in a few years with this discovery. For all the young scientists on board, and many of them were my students or are my students right now and moved on full-grown scientists now, or are colleagues from other countries I collaborate with already. For them it means much more because it will boost hopefully their career.
That's wonderful. Another question, I guess either one of you can answer, is the pieces of art that you showed, how deep were those? At what depth were they being deployed?
What's
okay, we are
2,500 meters.
Yeah, basically it's the caldera of a volcano, and the bottom of the caldera, which we basically dive into, is 2,500 meters deep.
Is that like 4,000? That's like 4,000.
So this is in feet.
It's extremely deep. It's extremely deep in feet.
Yeah, it takes.
I mean, an example for everyone is also like if you put a styrofoam object and it goes on Sebastian, and people were doing this, it gets shrunken down to like peach pit size.
Yeah. The ROV, it takes the ROV 2 hours to go to the bottom on a.
Yeah, that's a measure. And at some point I made a reel that is also a tangent. I made a reel of, there's the region as the ROV is descending and ascending, there's the twilight zone where the kind of the last bit of light penetrates the pelagic region before it becomes totally black. And there's a lot of incredible invertebrates that you encounter daily, that we were encountering daily. I mean, daily.
What? We calculated, yes. So that's, you have to imagine if you would go down like
deeper than
other submersible, it takes you 10 minutes only till you basically reach the end of the light. And this is basically where photosynthesis and the sunlight play a role. And then you have to go down another 1.5 hours or so till you reach the bottom.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So Max, seems that you're really thriving in this environment. What's it like working outside of your studio, and how did that impact you in terms of not having your usual materials or tools for your fabrications?
That's a very good question. No, I think it's extraordinarily healthy. And then it's always like you step out of your daily routine, and then you have the clarity of hindsight. But I think like you're number one, you're forced to kind of engage thought itself in a different way, and you have a different sets of stimuli. And for me, especially, I'm possessed, and I'm a frenetic maker. I think everyone in LA probably knows that, and to kind of be denied that, I think like I said in the beginning of this, I really excelled in many ways. So optimal. And again, it's like I don't want to sound like a cliche, but whenever, I mean, if anyone does this and they go to an exotic place, I think it awakens your appetite for the world out there again, at least for me. So I feel very appetited right now. I don't feel perfunctory. I don't feel overly industrious. I don't feel like an automaton who is mastering the routine, and that can happen really easily in LA. Yeah. LA is great stuff.
It's been a very
LA is great, but it's not hydrothermal vent area for sure. I mean,
on most days.
I'm close to like Kafka's Metamorphosis here. Very close of waking up as a tube worm.
I think
So close.
On that note, we'll ask both of you one last question before we wrap up today. Monica, why don't we start with you in terms of your general relationship with the ocean and how that parallels your work with the science, and Max, same question to you following that with your art practice.
Okay, so I come from Austria, Vienna, University of Vienna. It's a landlocked country. I grew up in the mountains, but I always was drawn to the ocean. I love the ocean. I can live without mountains, but I cannot live without the ocean.
Same exact thing for me, except I mean, I grew up on the west side of Los Angeles, like on the Pacific coast, and I think my first thing of fascination were tide pools and invertebrate life. But it's hard for me to think of any other conceptual artist that isn't enraptured by the ocean, and especially some of my contemporaries and people I admire. And there's a history starting. I mean, since art making, I don't know, there's always been a fascination with the ocean. And the surrealists are another good example. But I think there are a lot of things I could say, but for me, the ocean kind of, I always have these strange metaphors, but it's kind of like the eczema site of the globe. I mean, it's the first place that registers atmospheric change, and then offers up clues to other kind of macrocosmic phenomena. So, in terms of survival and our human survival and extremophilic adaptations, I think that's why it's really an important space to think about.
I think that is,
and it's also kind of, I think the last thing, sorry, really, I think it's good to encounter things that are impossible to quantify. I think it works it functions as a good reminder. It kind of puts human hubris in check, and functions as a reminder that there's something way bigger than us. I think it's very healthy for that reason.
that's perfect. Well, that's a great place to end. Dr. Bright, Max, thank you so much for your time and sharing some of your experiences with us. We are unfortunately at the top
Thank
of
you
the
again,
hour.
Monica. I'm a superstar.
And thank you to Mocha for helping to
Yeah.
collaborate on this ship to shore connection tonight. We encourage everybody to stay tuned for more work on this collaboration. And if you'd like to learn more about Max's work on board a Research Vessel Falkor 2, you can visit our website, schmidtocean.org, or our YouTube channel at Schmidt Ocean. A reminder that all of our dive streams are available in perpetuity on our YouTube site, so you can go actually see some of these dives that took place with ROV Sebastian, or follow us for live dives as we continue on with other expeditions. Thank you so much to Mocha, Max, Dr. Bright for this wonderful opportunity. Wishing everybody well.